Are you trying to figure out how to get clean bass in your track? A common misconception is that you have to do this in the mix, but really it's something that you can address in the production or arrangement phase of the recording. In today's lesson, we're going to talk about how you can get clean bass in your mix. Are you an artist, producer, engineer, or music professional that's looking for funding for your music career? Could you benefit from having funding for studio time, mixing and mastering, or even marketing costs? I think I have something for you. I've written a free ebook. It's 9 pages, super short and digestible, where I break down the 6 main places that artists and professionals like yourself can find funding for their musical projects. If this sounds like it's of value to you, please click the link below and you can download this for free today and benefit from this knowledge. I hope this helps. I'll see you guys soon. Peace. What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? It's your boy 5Piece producer and engineer extraordinaire. Thank you for checking out today's video. We're going to talk about a super important topic around arrangement and production in order to get your basses to come out cleaner. But before we get into that, I just want to ask you to please subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell button to stay tuned for more helpful videos in the future. I got a lot of amazing videos already out and more on the way, so if you subscribe, you'll be able to find out first when they drop. But let's get into today's lesson about getting a cleaner bass sound in your mix. Let's jump into Pro Tools. I'll show you what's going on. Bass is a sound that often suffers from muddiness, from a lack of clarity, and depending on what you're listening on, sometimes the bass sounds in a track may not be as clear as we want them to be. Now, the thing I've learned as a mixing engineer is that sometimes it's not because of the mix engineer that it's not clear. In fact, most times it's because of the production and the production choices that were made. This is all stuff that happens before the mixer ever gets a file. I was recently mixing a song for a client this week, and I was working through it as I always do, and I noticed that this session actually suffers from this exact problem, and I wanted to use it to shine some light on it because it's so common. You know, this individual made this mistake, but it's not really their fault because usually when we're producing, we're thinking with a producer's mind and we're not really as concerned or aware of the technical issues that may come up when the mixer is mixing and doing their part. So I was working on this song and I'm going to play it for you. I'm going to play it without the vocals, but it's a song called Asian Enough by Chara. Really cool little bop here, but I'm going to play it and just show you what I did and then we'll talk about it and what things originally sounded like. I'll pause it there. But you hear the idea of the song, really cool little instrumental right now. There are vocals, but I have them muted so you can really pay attention to the problem here. But what I really want to focus on is this sub drop sound that happens right here. Let me show you what everything sounded like before I did my thing to it, at least in terms of this production fix. Did you notice how the sub drop was not as clear anymore, at least this particular time when I played it? Why was that? Well, it's because at the same time as the sub drop, in terms of the arrangement here, this is the sub drop, you see there's 2 other sounds that are competing with this bass sound, the sub drop sound, and both of them are also bass sounds. So there's basically 3 bass sounds. They're playing different things, of course, but 3 bass sounds that are playing at the same exact time. And ultimately, the 3 of them playing at the same time creates this conflict that makes it hard to really hear any of them clearly. So what I decided to do in this particular case was I realized that the sub drop was the most important thing, and I wanted to focus on that. And as you notice, it plays and then it starts to fade out. And there's also some stuff that starts to happen on this main bass melody. And then, Cash's bass comes in a little bit later. So what I decided to do is I muted the bottom one, the Cash's bass. I muted the first hit of the main bass, and only the stuff that really got in the way of this, okay? Here and on, it's fine, but as long as the sub drop was clear,
That was sort of the main focus. So the real issue here is just the fact that there's multiple bass sounds playing at once. All right, so we just cleared up that issue by muting the other sounds and choosing which one to focus on for this moment, and now this issue is solved. So this happens multiple times throughout the song, and I decided to do it every single time. As you can see, this is another bass drop part here, and I did the exact same thing. I muted the main bass, I muted Cash's bass, only for the duration of the hit that made sense. And if I was really trying to be cautious, I could also potentially mute this end part here, but my concern was that it wouldn't be as fluid, and knowing that this sound is fading, as you could see in volume. It's decreasing in volume. I figured this sound would overtake it and get rid of that muddiness if needed. So let's just take a listen one more time to the before and after. Here's the before. After. It's very simple, it's very straightforward, and in a way this really has nothing to do with mixing. It's really fixing a production problem that could be avoided if you're aware of these principles in the first place. So if this is you right now, if you have songs where the bass isn't as clear, take a look at that song. Make sure that you don't have multiple bass sounds, bass instruments, bass parts that occupy the same frequency range competing with one another. And if they are competing with one another, simply go in and decide which one should be prioritized in that moment, and then mute the opposite bass sounds or the other bass sounds that are competing with this sound. And if you decide that you do want to keep all the sounds in, then you may have to explore another potential solution, such as using a combination of EQ, sidechain compression, and other things that I do show you in some of my other tutorials. So definitely check that out if you want to get some more info there.
And there you have it, something super simple to keep in mind when you're trying to achieve a cleaner bass sound in your mix, especially when you have multiple bass sounds going on at the same time. If you got value out of this video, please like, subscribe, and share. Share it with your friends, your producer friends, artist friends, anybody you think would benefit from this knowledge. And I'm looking forward to seeing you again soon. Peace out.
5.